First, I want to thank Pastor Chris for having us here. This is not my first time in this building. Actually, I also think that today's rainy day was on purpose so that we could come inside and see this wonderful space. For these doors in this building have been open when there has been turmoil in the city. I first came here when we had the Danbury 11 case here in Danbury, where 11 day laborers were illegally picked up by the city of Danbury and prosecuted under ICE violations, which is in totally against anybody's civil rights here in Connecticut. Federal law can only be enforced by federal officers, not by local. So Danbury thought that they would start suppressing the voice of those who have come to this city that has had a long history of immigration. I've been reading a book by my former university professor, Herb Janik, who passed away about 10 years ago, about the history of Danbury in its third trimester, which picks up around the turn of the century, late 1880s or so. And the overarching theme that comes in that book is about immigration, about all those who came here. First it was the Irish, then it was the Italians, then it was the Germans, then it was the Brazilians, and then it was the Portuguese. And it goes on and on and on, and how we just seem to keep reliving this hate and division with every new group that comes to our community. But Pastor Chris opened up her doors when we had a rally across the street, fighting against bringing in ICE access into Danbury because we felt it wasn't right. We had administration across the street that thought that putting the thumb down on the people rather than embracing and understanding them was more appropriate. There were so many people here that every single officer in Danbury was put on duty that night. Bus loads of people came in from all over the state because Danbury became the staging ground of saying, no more hate in Danbury. So when Pastor Chris opened her doors, we used her basement for a while. I don't know if you remember those days. To bring all people in, to talk about how we bring in a community of immigrants to all become accepted part of Danbury. Later on, I met Pastor Chris volunteering and working to try to preserve Dorothy Day Hospitality House. Our most underserved in Danbury, who rely on the goodness of people, are homeless. We're being thrown out. After 35 years, the mayor decided we did not know there was a homeless shelter in Danbury. A homeless shelter that for 35 years they had been doing fire inspections and had been doing food inspections because they served meals to those, and other inspections because it became politically expedient to say, we don't need those people. We'll just push them off somewhere else. Pastor Chris opened her doors, and we fought like hell, excuse those words, in this building, to make sure that those people were taken care of. And you can tell by her kindness with the water bottles and other things that they do here. But I didn't come here to praise Pastor Chris. It just happened to be something that comes forward. And if most people who know me, I usually speak off the cuffs. As somebody who I can't say suffers with dyslexia, probably enjoys more of it than I should, I find that speaking from the heart is the most genuine. We have watched Danbury become a staging ground for things such as what I've already brought up, the homeless, immigration. One of the largest Black Lives Matter rallies was done here in Danbury, and peacefully, because the community said enough's enough. We need to reach back and really look at the things that we preach. Love thy neighbor. It means everybody. It just doesn't mean select few. We need to support things that will foster that, like education, like public education. And I proudly wear my pin every day, and I've given away more than I probably kept, which says public education is the key to democracy. Public education is something that we hear far too often. I've been hearing about in Florida. Changing it, burying history, not addressing history, not learning from history. We are going down this dark path that other nations have succumbed to, which is ignoring and glorifying the parts of history we choose to embrace because the other and ugly pieces are uncomfortable to talk about. But if we don't look and talk about the ugliness, we're destined to repeat it. And that's what we're seeing. A country that was founded on inclusion and founded on people escaping persecution is finding itself falling back into the very things we ran from 400 years ago. When we don't support public education and we don't stand up when things are wrong, we wind up with a populace that's ignorant, a populace that chooses to just look at the niceties of things and not learning about the bad things. So they don't have an understanding, they don't have compassion, they don't know. We need to change that. We need to step up, embrace all. We need to try to understand each other. We're not all going to agree. And like this fine gentleman spoke about the rally, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. Look, I have family and friends that are police officers. I hear what they're going through. They're not the enemy, but they do have some bad apples in there that do need to be pruned from the tree. By having conversations and open doors like we have here today, I hope, and it is my best wishes, that we can come together, learn about each other, talk about each other, and understand each other. Because like they say, bad things happen when good people choose to do nothing. And I think those days are far past. We need to move forward. You do have friendly voices in the legislature. I served 4 years in the legislature. We do try to help. The majority of us try to help all. For me, it's extra special because I'm also an Eagle Scout. I take the beliefs of that organization, which could very well come into many of the things we are talking about here. Help other people at all times is my biggest line in the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. And if we can do that one thing, I think the rest of it is pretty simple to follow. So I thank you for having me here. I wasn't sure what I was going to say. I was going to kind of feel the room. But again, support our public education. Be out there. Don't be silent. Walk into the lion's den if you need to and have that conversation. Because you might find that the people that you think are your worst enemies actually may be your best allies. Thank you very much for having me. And watch this stuff.